evening, everybody, and how are we all doing today? It is, what is it, the 6th of June, July even, 2025. Hope you're well. Hope you're having a great week. Oh, it's been a busy one. It's been a really busy one, actually. I am absolutely shattered. So many things have been in the pipeline that are coming to completion now. And it just feels like this week everything has gone on top of me. But we're there. We are there. We're getting better. And I'll explain a bit about that a little bit later on. First of all, of course, if you are out there, please do say hello. But tonight we're going to be talking about seed saving. This is something that I try and do quite a bit of. As you know, I try to be as self-sufficient as I possibly can in my garden. And I believe that if we can try and save money, it makes our vegetable gardening as productive as possible. And seed saving is certainly one of those. But I want to know, do you save your own seed as well? My first question I'm going to throw out there to you, do you save your own seed? Now, let's see if anybody is out there. Strawberry Flair has joined us over on Instagram. Instagram looks to be stuck. Hopefully it's working okay for everybody else. So might just be my screen that happens with Instagram for some reason. Turbo Stream is saying, good evening, Veg Podcasters. Good evening to you. Nathan, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. We've got Adrian saying, hi, Richard and all. Good evening to you. Kate is there saying, good evening, Veg Army. Some very welcome rain here in Nottingham. Good evening to you. Graham is there saying, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. Gary is there saying, good evening. Good evening to you. Digwell, la luva es como hodarias volando en mi cabeza. Spanish for the rain is like fairies dancing on my head. There we go. Anna Jones, good evening, gardeners. Digwell, yes. Yes, he saves seed. I think that is. Stuart Jackson, evening, Richard and the Veg Army. Hope you're all well. And Rebecca is there saying good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. So, Digwell's already said that, yes, he saves seeds. Is he the only one out there that saves seeds? Now, I've done quite a bit of this in the past. And one of the main reasons that I like to save seeds, of course, to save money. You know, we're all trying to save some money. And I just find that when we've saved seeds, we haven't had to buy the same seed in the following year. Now, it's not completely flawless. There are some problems that can happen, but we'll get into that throughout the conversation. But for me, some of the easiest plants to save seeds with: garlic. Always save the largest bulb of garlic to be replanted the following year. And beans, broad beans, French beans, runner beans, borlotti beans, dried beans. So easy to save the seeds. But that's not all that we can save. There are many, many more out there. So if you are saving seeds, or what seeds are you saving? Stuart says we had rain, but only for about 20 minutes. So we had a bit of rain yesterday. We had rain overnight. We've had a huge downpour about half an hour ago, but it's dried up or stopped raining now. I'm very grateful for the rain, to say the least. Very grateful, because we are so dry here. So dry. It's ridiculous. Turbo Stream says we actually had some wet rain today, but not nearly enough. But we take what we are given. Yeah, I'm the same. It really did tip it down. It means I haven't got to water the garden tonight, but it's not enough. It's not going to be enough, but we'll take what we are given. Kate says, I do. I saved loads of beans from my allotment last year and now out in my garden this year. Excellent. Excellent. That's what I like to hear. What type of beans and what did you do differently? Also, tomato seeds, says Kate. Excellent. Stuart says, I'm starting to save seeds at home this year, but we've done it in the past at school. Perfect. Excellent. Digwell says, I save many seeds as they are sent to me from friends in the USA/Canada. Fantastic. Fantastic. Gary says, I've saved sunflower, marigold, and nasturtium seeds before, which worked. I have my bean seeds go moldy. I replant garlic on your suggestion. So if your seeds are going moldy, that means they're not dry enough. Now, bean seeds, I've always said bean seeds are some of the easiest to save seeds from. Peas as well, for that matter. You let them go till the husk, the outer sheath, the pod is really, really dry. Really, really dry, and that tells you that the seeds are ready on the inside. They've got to be really dry. They're so crispy, they've turned color. You just crumple them and the seeds fall out. That's how you know they are ready. But one of the things you got to remember, when you save seeds from beans and you let them go like that, when they go really dry, the plant itself will stop producing more flowers because it thinks it's done its job. It's repropagated. So you do have to sort of think, well, okay, we may have to grow some plants just for seed saving or leave it to the end of season, which is what I tend to do. For garlic, as I said, I just save the largest bulb when harvesting and replant that the following year. Really easy to do, saves me an absolute fortune because I grow lots of different types of garlic. Turbo Stream says, I usually save some broad bean seeds along with parsnips. I don't save any others though. How do you go about saving the parsnip seeds? That's my question there, because that sounds very interesting. And it says, I sow seeds from peas, beans, tomatoes, sweet peas, and herbs. I save a huge amount of seed from our perennials and shrubs, and sometimes from bulbs as well. Fantastic. Chili Cake, hi everyone, just leaving the allotment, listening in the car, we'll be home soon. Drive carefully. Drive carefully. Nathan, I love the cross-pollination when saving my own seed. Now, cross-pollination is actually something I think we need to touch upon. So, cross-pollination can happen, particularly with squash plants. Squash plants themselves are incredibly promiscuous. So you could end up with saving a seed from, say, a pumpkin plant or a butternut squash, but that seed produces a courgette plant because they do have a horrible habit of cross-pollinating and producing something completely different. Not to put you off, but what you have to really think about doing then is isolating the plants that you want to save these seeds from so that they don't get cross-pollinated and then you have to pollinate themselves. I'm only touching on it here. We might return back to this a little bit later on, but it's very easy to get plants to cross-pollinate. Kevin Kelly says, I would like to start saving seeds, but not sure how to store them. Any ideas? Well, the secret is, as I said, you've got to make sure when you harvest your seeds, they are really, really dry. Dry them out further by placing them in a greenhouse or a sunny windowsill to dry them out further, depending on what the seed is. Tomato seeds are slightly different. And then when they are dry, you've got to keep them dry, store them in a really dry, cool environment. I like to keep mine in a wooden box, but then I also throw in some desiccated gel. You know, the type of packs that you get from when you buy electronic goods, those packs that have do not eat on it. They go in my boxes as well, just to absorb any more moisture. So really keeping them dry is the key there. And it says we lost a huge number of perennial plants in the floods last year, and we've regrown just about everything from saved seed. Would have cost a fortune to buy new plants. That's amazing. See, this isn't actually a really good reason why we should think about saving seeds more, because there is a chance we could lose some plants. And historically, there are some lost varieties of plants that have been lost through the annals of time. And if we're saving our own seeds, we end up possibly preserving that plant. And that's what at Wakefield House, part of Kew Gardens, with the Millennium Seed Dome, the seed bank, sorry, is all about. Something I really want to get a behind the scenes visit to. Turbo Stream, I did try a new parsnip variety this year, as my previous parsnips seem to have developed bad canker. Problem. Beans are very Beans are very variable to save. They are perfect seed, but if they get cross-pollinated from another bean, the results can vary. Pretty tasteless, being polite. Yes, this is the risk with anything that we save seeds, and that is cross-pollination. Cross-pollination can affect our seed saving. So we could end up with a mix of different varieties all in one seed. This is where sometimes you're best off, if you want to grow to save seed, you need to isolate them in some way or another. Easier said than done, I know, but that might be something that we have to think about. One of the other things that I do think is also important to recognize, F1 and heirloom varieties as well. Now, generally speaking, we save seeds from heirloom varieties. Heirloom being, well, they're not basically they original seeds. They're old seeds. They're unplayed around with. F1 is when let's say a sun gold and a sun gold tomato and trying to think, Gardener's Delight tomato are pollinated together. That seed that comes out is what would be called an F1. Now, the risk when you save seeds from F1 varieties is that the seeds that you get may not be true to what you originally started with. You might have more of a Sun Gold variety or more of a Gardener's Delight variety in that example. Hopefully that makes sense. But basically, if you are looking to save seeds, you really want to err on the side of looking at F1 or heirlooms, heirloom varieties of seeds to save from. Kate says the beans have been in Yin Yang Jacob's cattle, Greek Gigantes, and Scarlet Emperor runners. Fantastic, fantastic. I think we've spoken about these before. The Greek Gigantes seems to ring a bell. Turbo Stream, I usually get a parsnip over winter, then the next year it flowers and gives millions of seeds. Then they get sown the following spring. Now, this is actually a very good point because carrots, onions, parsnips are what are called biennials. I know most of you will know this, but I'm just saying it for those that don't know. Carrots, parsnips, and onions are biennials. And what we mean by that is that they tend to flower in their second year. So they would go a year growing, then the second year they would pop their flower to go to seed. That is the theory. Doesn't always go like that when we think of onions and things like that. But the theory is they will produce a flower in their second year. So you do have to, if you are looking to save seeds and you want to do something like carrots or parsnips, you may have to look at that. It's a 2-year cycle to try and save those seeds. What I tried to do in the past when it comes to carrot seeds particularly is I sowed carrots in a large drum and I ate the carrots out of it, but I left just a couple of carrot plants to go to seed the following year. And I let those seeds basically fall back in that drum. Then in year 3, they would have produced carrots. That was the idea. It didn't quite work, but it might be something we try again in the future. Gary says, I got low germination from saved pumpkin seeds. Could cross-pollination be why? It could be, but what you've also got to remember, when you save seeds from something like a pumpkin plant, you get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of seeds inside a pumpkin. But the seeds that are viable are generally the fatter seeds. Sometimes you get fat seeds and thin seeds inside a pumpkin. The fatter ones are the ones that are more than likely to be possible to have germinated or to be grown or to be used to grow another plant. The thin ones, it's unlikely they're going to do anything. So saving the fatter seeds from your squash plants is also important. Over on Instagram, Brick Lee Claire has joined. Welcome along. Lovely to see you. Kate says, I got given some cross-pollinated gigantes that turned out blue. Absolutely amazing and worked well. Fantastic, fantastic. Two people are talking about brown paper bags. Brown paper. Have I missed a comment there? But brown paper bags, actually, that is again another thing. So storing seeds in brown paper bags is a good idea too. So when your seeds are going to flower, let's say take the carrots or parsnips, put some brown paper bags over them so that when they shed their seed, they fall in that brown paper bag. Hold that brown paper bag up so that they store well. Kate says, I stored mine in glass jars, kept well in the dark, and all germinated well. Glass jars are definitely an option. You've just got to be sure that they are really, really dry, because if they are a bit wet on the inside, that can come out as condensation, and that can lead to mold. So glass jars can work, but just make sure they are really, really dry. Anna Jones says, a lot of YouTubers are using photo storage cases to store their seed. That's definitely an option. I do have one of those. They're expensive. That's the reason I don't promote that so much, because they are expensive. I prefer a good wooden box, sits inside an old fridge, and I'll use that. Turbo Stream says, one of my Bolt Hardy beetroot has started to flower. Will the seeds be okay to store, to save? They should be. They should be. If they started to flower, if you want to leave them to go to seed, then yes, they should be okay. It's the ideal time, actually, to try and do that. I've never really done it with beetroot seeds, to be honest with you, but it's probably a good time to try that. A swig of coffee coming up. Digwell says heirloom just means open pollinated. Are we back there? Turbo, I did that with runner beans. The seeds, they all want moldy. I guess I didn't dry them enough. Yeah, drying them is the key thing when it comes to saving seeds. You really got to dry them well. Nicholas says, evening all. Sorry, I'm late. There you go. No worries, lovely to see you. So that's Amanda coming home and Roxy gone off barking. Digwell, my amplifiers set seed in year one, deal, fennel, etc., etc. Yeah, they can do. This is why I was. So if a plant is stressed, such as carrots, dill, fennel, they generally are called biennials, but they can set seed in year one as well, especially if they are stressed, which, given how dry it's been this year, I expect there'll be a lot of. Graham says, most of my seeds are F1s, so don't bother seed saving, but had great success with runner beans and French beans. So the thing is with F1, it's not that you can't save seeds from them, it's that the seeds may not be the same as what you originally started with. Now, it can sometimes be quite fun to try it out and see what you end up with. So I'm not saying don't do it, just be prepared that they may not come true to type. Stuart says, seed saving, my one top tip, label as well. Yeah, label. Don't forget to label, but I say that the same as anything. As I have in the past used a pen and the ink came off, so it was fun to see what grew. Yeah, label, label, label. That's the same with any plant, any seed that we're sowing, label everything up anyway. That's one of my biggest tips. Now, I'm going to go and I'm going to share you a bit of a story of something that I did a couple of years ago, which was meant to be a bit of fun, but has resulted in quite an interesting result. Apple seeds. Now, I'm sure most of us we're very well familiar with apples. So they're such a common fruit. We eat quite a few of them here, and they are delicious. So I was eating an apple. It was a brownie apple. I must have been cooking with it one day, and I had all these seeds from it. And I thought I would give it a try and see if we could actually get an apple tree from it. Well, we did. We did get an apple tree from it. It's still very early to see if it's really properly worked, but we've got an apple tree from seeds, from apple seeds. Thing is, it can take quite a few years. We're probably looking at 10 years before it produces fruit. Now, there is a risk when it comes to using these apple seeds. Because they are commercially produced, I would suspect these apples, they've probably had crab apples nearby to act as the pollinators. So there is a risk we may not get a brownie apple tree, we may get a crab apple tree from that plant. This is, again, where cross-pollination is something that we have to think of when we are saving our seed. Because if you want a brownie apple, you want a brownie apple. You don't want a crab apple. Two different things, very different things. Digwell says, unless you have loads of land, re-sowing saved F1s is waste of time. 1 in 5 good plants at best. Yeah. Absolutely. And he goes on to say P&A 125 pen lasts for 3 to 5 years on a label. Talking about label, labeling is so important. So what I'm gathering from many of you is you are saving seeds. Now, I want to find out what particular method or how do you go about saving seeds? I've shared my methods. The one I haven't really covered is tomato seeds, because tomato seeds are a little bit harder to save the seed from because the seeds are covered in a gelatin. So what you have to often do with, and I'm trying to remember now because I haven't done this for so long, you scoop out the seeds from the inside of a tomato, you put them in a jar with water, and eventually place that jar somewhere sunny. That water will break down the gelatin on that seed. You then drain it off, reserve the seeds, place it on some kitchen roll to dry out, and then you should eventually have some saved tomato seeds. They're probably one of the hardest seeds to try and protect, try and get anything from, but it can be worth doing. If you do have a particular variety of heirloom tomatoes, it could be worth giving that a try. But if anybody has got any other seeds that they have methods of saving seeds from, let us know in the comments. Going to have a swig of coffee coming right up. So let me, while I wait for some answers on that, let me tell you what's been going on this week here at the Veg Ground Podcast HQ. As you know, last week I put up my new shed, my potting shed, which is out in the garden. It's I'm doing very well. I go in there every single day. As you do when you get something new, you have to go and see it every single day just to see if anything has changed. But I've been using it as a propagation shed. I've been starting off a lot of seeds in there. This week we've got kale, fennel. We've got a lot of microgreens, cress, etc. in there. All in my auto pots, which is quite relevant because Autopop, the company, came round to do some filming on Friday. So it was a mad rush to try and make sure I had everything done ready so that when they turned up, they could film. It was so stressful when you're trying to get it ready for that. But we got there. We did it. And they were happy, which is always good. And then the other big news that I've got, you obviously hear more on this on the podcast this week, is that starting tomorrow, my driveway is being replaced. I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but we've been getting quotes to get our driveway replaced. I wanted resin bonded so that when it rains, the water soaks through into the soil below. And we were getting quotes. They were all coming around the same sort of figure. But this one company said, we can get it done in 2 weeks' time for 20% off, because basically he had no work for his guys that week. And we were like, yeah, let's do it. So I've had a mad rush, basically emptying my water butts and all my plants from out the front of the garden to the back garden to try and make sure that when they come along tomorrow, I've got a digger sat out on my front drive at the moment so that they can come along and just start working in our drive tomorrow. Been a very, very mad rush getting that all done, and I'm absolutely shattered this weekend, as I'm sure you can imagine. I did manage to get down the allotment as well, which was highlight too, because it is nice to spend a bit of time on the allotment. Digwell says, I save a few tomato seeds to resell, but if it's for your own use next year, is it worth it? Most heirlooms are less than £1 a packet. This is a good question. Are they worth it? Is it worth saving seeds? Do you think it's worth to saving seeds when seeds can be so cheap? It's a good question. It is a very good question. And I come back to that. I believe we're trying to be more and more self-sufficient. So let's say worst thing happens, and I'm not for 1 second going to say this is going to happen, but I'm just using this as a bit of a thought experiment. What if World War III does kick off next year? with everything going on in the world. I'm not saying it will. I don't believe it will. But what if it does? All our lines of being able to buy seeds may be disrupted. We may have trouble getting hold of seeds to use in our garden. So what would we do then? What would we do then? We had a bit of a sample of this about 5 years ago through COVID, isn't it? When garden centres and things like that were closed. What would we do then? This might be why we want to look at saving seeds to offer up that, bit more self-sufficiency. Over on Instagram, Scott has joined Seed to Table Plot 13. He says, hi all, I'm very late, but hope you've all had a good week. Hope you've had a good week as well. Been very productive here at the Veg Ground Podcast. Turbo Stream says, my overwintered red onions are in flower. I was thinking of saving them, but it might not be worth it. It would be worth it, I would say. I mean, give it a go. What have you got to lose apart from one onion? I'll be certainly giving it a try if I was in that position. Gary says, on whether it was worth it, I think it sounds quite fun to save your own seeds, same as growing your own carrots, even though they're so cheap. Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. It is a bit of fun. And I think it's also important that we try and hold on to these skills as well. Saving seed is a skill, just like growing plants from seed is a skill. Holding on to that is an important skill. Graham says, better dig my underground bunker, sod the sprouts. And Amanda heard that because she's obsessed with underground bunkers.
Oh, I love a good bunker.
Yeah. Digwell says, if World War III kicks off, then I will be raiding my local garden centres before everyone else gets there. PMSL. My kind of point now, isn't it? That is my point. And I'm not for 1 second saying World War III is going to kick off. But if it does, where would you get your seeds from? Perhaps this is why we have to look at seed saving. Andy Jane says, I just dry tomato seeds on a piece of kitchen roll and plant the kitchen roll like a seed mat. I always get enough plants. That's an interesting idea. That is a very interesting idea. I'd like to see more on that because I've often thought about doing something similar, basically making your own seed papers sort of thing. Turbo Stream says, okay, we'll give it a go, especially if we get nuked. As I said, I don't think it is likely to happen. This is more a thought experiment. But that being said, as I said, 5 years ago, we didn't really think COVID was going to affect us in quite the same way as it did. I can't believe that was 5 years ago now. Time flies, doesn't it? Time flies when you're having fun. So, I guess really, let's have a bit of a think about what we could save seeds from. I mean, pretty much everything we could save seeds from. Is there anything out there that people wouldn't bother saving seeds from? I know Digwell's already added a few ideas and kind of agree with him. But anybody got anything else they wouldn't bother saving seed from? Kate says, for me, I enjoy the whole growing process from start to finish. The food at the end is a wonderful bonus. Real seeds are a favourite as they encourage seed saving, and then you can even print the packets. So here's another thing is that I was thinking of as well. We were down in Brighton. I didn't go this year. Down in Brighton, of course, we had Seedy Sunday in February, which is a giant seed swap. And people do actually save their own seeds to take to these events in order to share and try and get them. I actually think this is another aspect or a good idea of something that we should do. Try and share our own saved seeds amongst everyone. Digwell says, better to dry seeds in a Chinese takeaway container as they do not stick to the kitchen tissue. There's an idea. There's an idea indeed. Gary says, does taking cuttings count of saving seeds? I wouldn't say, not particularly, doesn't count as saving seeds, but it's definitely a way of propagating more plants. And, again, I'm a big fan of saving seeds, taking cuttings. We made seed tapes at school. It was so easy to do. I wouldn't have the patience myself. I've tried. I just don't have the patience to sit there counting one seed per so long. But yeah, good idea. Seed potatoes are a must. Now, actually, this is actually a good point. Seed potatoes. I did this a couple of years ago, and all I did is I grew my potatoes like normal, but I took a couple of the seed potatoes that I originally bought, put them in pots, and I treated those as a separate from the rest. These weren't to be harvested. These were going to be my seed potatoes. First early, second early's main crops I did this with. And then the following year, I took those potatoes and I planted them in the ground. And actually, I think I'm trying to work out, we're probably looking nearly 30 quid that I spend on seed potatoes every year. So I should really be doing this a bit more in order to try and save more seed. Perhaps that's something we should do next year again, save some seed potatoes. TurboStream says, I doubt I would save brassica seeds. I let a seed flower and got millions of seeds. The envelope burst, so I lost them all. Yeah, brassicas do tend to produce lots of seeds. And I was actually thinking just now, one of the key things that we've got to remember, mustard is a type of brassica. And yeah, we eat the leaves, they're delicious. But if we let them go to seed and we harvest the seeds, we have then got mustard seeds that we can use in cooking as well. This is another reason to think about saving seeds, because it's very much the same process. If we were saving the seeds to grow, we could also look at this for saving the seeds to eat. Mustard seeds, which we could then, well, use mustard seeds in the kitchen, grind them down to make mustard powder, make our own mustard sauce. Lots of good things that we could do if we think about it like that. And it's the same for many other seeds that we might use in the kitchen as well. Gary says, what did you use as the tape, Stuart? My guess would be tissue paper, but I could be wrong. Gary, seed potatoes are most of my seed budget each year. Exactly right. So what if we could save seeds from those? And best of all, if you think you've got a particular potato plant that has grown really well this year, those genetics, survival of the fittest, remember, those genetics can be saved for the following year. This is something I find with my garlic. So I've been growing this, basically I save the garlic every year. The biggest bulb, that gets planted out the following, later on that same year. And that leads to those genetics. They're tailoring themselves to my allotment, to my vegetable garden. They're getting used to growing in my conditions, and they are getting bigger and bigger every year. Excellent, excellent. Kate says, I put my tomato seeds to dry on coffee filters. I also use the filter papers to filter rainwater I've saved for my indoor plants, so no hitchhikers come in. That's a good idea. Coffee filters. I haven't had coffee filters for ages, but good idea. Digwell says SSPC, another good point. 24 kilos from one seed potato last year. That's a good point, because I think my seed potato died this year, so I may not be in the running, dare I say it. Anna Jones says, would not bother with strawberry seeds. Much easier and quicker to save the runners. There we go. Good answer. Very good answer there. We use toilet rolls as it's cheap and thin. Join SSPC. Yeah. Can't find you on YouTube, says Richard. I'm on YouTube, aren't I? Yeah, I must be, because everyone's on there. What's going on there? I must be there. SSPC is brilliant. It is brilliant. A single seed potato. I should explain. So SSPC is Digwell's single seed potato challenge. And anybody that enters, when do we enter? February, March, gets a single seed potato, and you have to try and grow as many potatoes as possible from that single seed potato. It's good fun. It's good fun. It's a good competition. I think we need more of these sort of challenges in the community as well. Yeah, Gary lost the plant. I will next year. I'll be doing it again next year. Mine, as I said, mine dried out. How can you kill a seed potato? Well, what I basically done with my seed potato. I'm going to give a bit of tips away here now. I took my single seed potato and I let it sprout, and I cut it, and we had 5 plants. They were in pots. They were growing nicely. And then I sort of forgot about them inside the greenhouse, and they got a bit too hot, a bit too wet, a bit too small of a pot. I meant to pot them on, and that's where they died. So, you know, my mistake. I'll hold my hands up. I'm not going to make that mistake again next year. Just typically everything got on top of me. Found you, says Richard Golden. Lovely, lovely. Yeah. Again, this is the thing I like about this single seed potato challenge is it's a good way of thinking of how we can maximize the amount of money we spend on things like seed potatoes to give us bigger harvests in the end. This is it. This is it. So has anybody got anything else they want to throw in? I tell you what, while you think of anything you want to throw in about this particular subject of seed saving, let's have a look at this week's mission. Okay, so this week's mission was to start an organic bed, and we're going to grow this right throughout the season organically. This is the bed I've chosen. This did have my overwintered garlic, onions, and shallots and elephant garlic and things like that, which have all now. I've just realised that is the wrong video. I haven't uploaded the actual video, so I am going to quickly upload that while I try and talk a little bit more and try and see what's going on. Digwell says a few entrants now have 34 to 45 potato plants already. 35 to 40. It just goes to show what can be done with a single seed potato. Graham says best seed potatoes will go up another 20% as it's been so dry. It's again, this is another reason to think about saving seeds. Cost saves cost, and seed potatoes are a good example of something that has cost a fortune. Stuart says this is another reason why I love this group. We share failures as well as positive results. Yeah. I always believe it's important to share failures, as you know, because that's where we learn the most. That's when we learned the most. Digwell says, yep, last week's, yeah. And Turbo Stream, while you are waiting for the video, I completed painting the allotment shed. Well done, fantastic. But that mission has uploaded now, so let's go back to it. Okay, so for this week's mission, I've came over to our organic garden bed that we created last week. As you know, I sowed some seeds here last week. I added more seeds as well. We've almost filled this bed up. In fact, the Mizuna that we sowed last week has started to germinate, so it's a good sign. Although I'm seeing some birds here who are, well, rummaging around, shall we say, so they may have upset some. Anyway, this week's mission was to make an insect water station. And what I've got here is quite simply a small dog's bowl, one of Roxy's that we have scattered around the garden. She never uses it, so it's not going to be missed. And then inside, what we have is some stones I got from our front garden. They're really easy, just fill or place a load of stones inside this. We could add twigs and things as well, but I'll be worried about that rotting in the water. We just add some water to this. And there we go, we have our insect station. And I'm going to place this just here in this bed to try and bring in those insects into this organic garden bed. So I think that is mission accomplished, but what do you think? Let me know in the comments. There we go. Is that mission accomplished? The mission was to make a insect drinking station. I think I've done it. Don't forget, and I forgot to pop this up, if you have a mission or a cook along for next week idea, just enter in the chat hashtag mission or hashtag cook along so that we can enter into the draw. And I've just realized, don't do that yet because I haven't set that up either. I'm having a really bad, my brain's not functioning today, is it? Where are we? There we go. There we go. There we go. So if anybody does hashtag mission, then that would work. That will work. Mission accomplished, etc., etc. Excellent, excellent. Lovely to see that people liked that. So is anybody else like thinking about saving any seeds? And why are you thinking of saving seeds? I'm just going to set up the cook along give away tool. Oh, I'm screwing it up again. Here we go. StreamYard giveaway tool. Hashtag cook along. There we go. There we go. Start collecting. There we go. So yes, 2 people already entered the mission. So there we go. Right. So where were we? Yeah, where were we? Was that mission passed or mission failed? And TurboStream, what colour have you painted your shed? Jenny has joined. Hello. Sorry I'm late being a mum taxi. Doodle Sparkle. I've never saved any seeds yet, but might start this year. There we go. That's inspiration I want. Andrew says, in this heat, I've got such water bowls all around the garden. Yeah, I'm definitely doing much more of this, feeding and getting nature into my garden much more lately, because I want to try and encourage wildlife. While at the same time, my garden is for growing food. So I've got to be very, very on the ball with that. 100% Richard. Stuart says, thumbs up for the mission. Jenny says, perfect drinking station. Very much mission accomplished. Fantastic. Thumbs up all, says Nicola. Bloody painful. Oh, Jenny's hurt her arm and says it's painful. Sorry to hear that. Doodle says, I like that idea. I will use the drinking station idea. Yeah, it's so simple, but can make a lot of sense. Hashtag mission build a bird water table. There we go. And Stuart says, hashtag mission make a seed tape to follow on from tonight's subject. It all goes in a drawer. Whoever wins is what we will do. Graham says, at least you only lost potatoes, Richard. Moddy Boots lost a lot when he went on holiday. Yeah, I haven't watched his video. I've seen that he on social media, he's struggling a bit, I think. So it'd be nice if everyone just went and put your arm around him in through the internet, because it is heartbreaking when things fail. I mean, you all know this because it happens. And this year, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I have not got many beans because they failed to germinate because it's been so dry, and sweet corn all got eaten by slugs and snails. So I am struggling this year, but we're keeping on top of it. We're not letting it beat us. We're just sowing more and more seeds to go into its place. Luckily, and you'll hear this tomorrow because there's still time to sow a lot of seeds. And that are going to go into some of those spaces. But it's been such a dry year. Watering is a real problem. Which brings me actually to something I think I want to talk about next week, which is plants in pots, and how we go about making the most of them, and hanging baskets as well and things like that. So just to prepare you for next week, there we go. Digwell says, I saved the following: dwarf, climbing, French beans, runner beans, marrows, fennel, dill, borage, and many more. So Digwell has a seed club as well. So do you save seeds for that too? I guess you do. Nigel says, Digwell says, Nigel trusted a good friend to water. He let him down. There's always a way, isn't it? Nobody will look after your garden or allotment as well as you will. As tragic as that is to say, it's very sad. This is why I personally don't go on holiday in the summer. I save that for sort of spring/autumn, because I don't trust anybody with my garden. My brother would probably do okay, but it's hard for him to get on the allotment. But yeah, I'm with you. Jenny says, I got some giant hogweed sap on my arm. It reacts to sunlight and can blister. The blistering can last up to 5 years. Luckily, I had water so I could rinse it off and A&E quick. All dressed, no sunlight. Sorry to hear that. A giant hogweed is a real problem. Turbo Extreme says, I saw Nigel's video. He was let down on watering by a friend. He was really down. Don't blame him. Don't blame him. I'm going to throw out a tip that I've really learned this year, actually, because I haven't really visited my allotment for the last couple of weeks. I did yesterday, but for the last couple of weeks, I haven't really visited my allotment. But I was harvesting some potatoes, and I noticed just how damp the soil around my potatoes still was. And the secret was that I laid a really thick straw mulch. So I investigated other areas that I've laid a straw mulch, and it has worked. So I'm going to throw that out there to anybody who's looking for a tip. Straw mulch, or any mulch really, but straw mulch has really worked well for me. Nicholas says, I have 2 ponds, a ground one and a water trough. Both have duckweed and water lilies, and other plants also have shallow trays and dustbin lids with water in for the chickens so insects can dive in. Yeah, it's good to think about the insects and the wildlife in our garden. Stuart says, harvested lettuce and cucumbers this weekend, having to sow more lettuce. Children have now been eating lettuce, radish and raspberries. The head also made a lovely rhubarb dish. There we go. This is what it's all about, isn't it? Saving our seeds and growing our food and making the most of what we have. No sunlight allowed for 48 hours minimum. It feels like it's burning. I feel for you. Digwell says, Seed Club, oh yes. And Rebecca says, #mission, pick a struggling plant and bring it back to life. Oh, I like that. I can go to Bargain Corner in the garden centre and really find a struggling plant. Let's have a look. That's 3 missions on the board so far. Andrew says, I've lost most of my stuff in the garden. The soil is so like clay and the roots can't get down. Courgettes are doing okay. The cucumber seedlings turned out to be more courgettes. Yeah, we're all going through it. It's so hard. This dry season. I mean, I've never known a year to be this dry. I'm worried. I am worried. I'm hoping the rain today will help. Stuart says, sorry, Richard, we paid yet. Had an email. I think it's in the process. Gary says, I went on holiday once and asked my parents to look after it. It came home and my allotment was in a better condition when I left. But you're very lucky. You very luckily obviously followed your instructions to the letter. And that is important. When you do go away, you do need something to look after your plants. It does make a difference. Nicholas says, irrigation from containers help. I'll use lots of mulch. Yeah. Jenny, sorry, Digger, I haven't been on Facebook since earlier. Please send any tips you have, if any. Mulch is okay for short-term rain deficit. I have to admit, it has done wonders on my allotment. The soil where I placed the straw over has really stayed moist. So I am very, very, very impressed with using straw mulch. I will be using it again. I still think it does need watering, of course, but not as much. The soil does seem to stay hydrated. Stuart says, like, subscribe, etc. Just a reminder. Yeah, please do like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, follow, click the notifications so that you know when we go live. Nicholas says, Jenny, put a cold ice pack on towel on the top of arm to help. Oh, hiccups now as well. And Stuart says 1976 was really dry. It lasted well to August that year. I wasn't around then, so as I said, it's not as dry as I knew it. Digwa says, not drying my straw bales or no dig beds. But no dig beds is exactly what we mean. That's adding a mulch, isn't it? It makes a big difference. It does make a big difference. Jenny says, thank you, Nicola. Well, the sap touched me. It's bleached, no freckles, etc. Powerful plants. And Andrew remembers 1976 too. Yeah, as I said, I don't. So, mulching, it seems like a hot topic at the moment, and keeping our soils moist and everything. We've discussed this so much lately. I was going to avoid talking about it, but I do think it is something that seems to be bothering us. We've had rain today, actually, and well, this weekend, which is very, very, very welcome. We need more of it. I would like it after my driveway's done and I can pop the water butt back out the front so that it fills up quickly would be good as well. But anyway, that's neither here. We need rain. We need rain. Is anybody doing a rain dance yet? Nicholas says, I've not done any gardening this year as veg garden, as you know, was so overgrown with brambles. First 2 beds finished, wood chips, straw, soil, then mushroom and bagged compost on the top 6 to 8 inches. Yeah, it's a really good work that Nicola's been doing on her garden. I have to say, she's really gone all out to try and work hard and get over everything that, you know, it's frustrating, isn't it, when you feel like you've got so much to do? But I think we all sort of suggested to just concentrate on one area and work through it, and that's what Nicola's been doing. So if you want to see any, well, I've got a photo coming up a bit later on, but if you want to see it in the Facebook group, there's a lot of progress going on. Turbo Stream says, my grass mulch was great, but it's been so dry, even that part is now bone dry. I think it's been an exceptional year. Any crops are a bonus. Well, how do you feel farmers are going to feel then with that? Yeah, it has been, I mean, grass mulch works as well. You just need a lot of grass to make any real difference. Key thing I've always said when it comes to mulching, though, it's best to mulch a whole bed well than to try and, or half a bed well, sorry, than to try and spread it all over half a whole bed. Mulch works better on soil with no organic matter. Yep, couldn't agree more. But you know, if you're laying down compost in the no-dig method, you're effectively mulching as well. So, yeah. Stuart says, I agree with Richard about the straw, as my fruit bed is the wettest bed I have. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. The straw has made a huge difference. The main reason I went for straw this year, I could buy a straw bale for £3.50, which I thought that's pretty cheap. I'm using straw bales in our straw bale gardening as well. I thought that was pretty cheap to do, and it works. It has worked, and I've been using it as a mulch. It saved me a lot of time. I'm going to be doing more of it in the future as well. Well, we want to produce more compost, which is a challenge. Hence why we've got a hot bin to try and produce more compost and things like that. Let's try and continue going no dig. Nicholas says, put some beetroot seeds in May. Do some French beans, or dwarf French beans, lettuce, spring onions. May not be enough time for courgettes. I would say it's too late for courgettes. Personally, you might get away with some butternut squashes, but courgettes probably too late. But dwarf French beans will be good. Lettuce, radish. Well, listen to tomorrow's podcast and you hear all about it as well. Terry Stu says, I did mulch well on top of the copious amounts of leaves, on top of the copious amounts of compost. I'm not watering the weeds. There we go. Love to see the straw bales on the next show. Yep, okay, can do that. Jenny says, the crops in the fields near us are only half the height they should be, and it looks like it will be an early harvest, which means the straw will be shorter, so less straw, probably more expensive. That is a risk. This comes back to what we're saying. But the reason I use straw, as I said, I cannot produce enough compost on my allotment, so straw is the next best alternative, and it's cheaper than buying in compost. If I could get other alternatives, I would use it. Oh yeah, I've read that one. Stuart says, even if you only want a small amount of straw, home bargains £2 for a large bag. I use 2 bags on my fruit bed. There we go. Just goes to show it is a cheaper way, I think, is doing it. Nicholas says, straw is good for water retention at the bottom of raised beds or bottom of a trench. Works really well. There's a lot to be said for straw. I did straw in the past and I didn't think much of it, but now I am converting. The other alternative is Strolch. I know a lot of people do use Strolch as well, which I've used in the past. I just found it a bit too expensive to use on the allotment or at the vegetable gardens, which is the only reason that I don't do that. Right, I've just realised I haven't added this week's cook along, so I'm just going to upload that quickly. Yes, straw is predicted to be more expensive next year. everything I think is going to be more expensive next year. Every year it gets more and more expensive anyway. And Gary says, do you guys not get seeds in your strawberries? I used it once. Oh, I used it once and got loads of barley plants. I can't say I have. I have noticed some sprouts popping up. I've just simply removed those. Turbo Stream, I've even pulling the weeds and watering them as much. I'm even pulling weeds and using them as mulch. A chop and drop, weed and drop. So here. Straw, not strawberry. Oh, no. Right, yes. Sometimes do get some barleys, but not too worried. Not too worried by that. Digwell says £4.50 for a full bale from a farm, £3.50 for me. Pete will be cheaper, says Digwell. Nicola, I've been moving loads of semi-well rotted wood chip. I have tons to move and use. See, wood chip was another good mulch. I used that on a couple of beds last year and it worked really well. And in fact, it's still there now. The thing with wood chip as well is rotted wood chip. It's really good for holding on to moisture too. So it acts as a sponge when it's incorporated into the soil as well. Jenny says, I've used hay bales before. I had good results. I've not used hay bales because I read there's a lot of seeds or weed seeds that you can get from that. So I've avoided that myself, but I can see why it would be. I can see it being another alternative. Perhaps it's an experiment we do next year. Stuart says, very little weeds with my straw, far less weeds in the bed without straw. That says it all, doesn't it? The peat-free compost will go up and still be crap. Yeah, I know. A lot of people are complaining about the peat-free compost. Right, guys, don't forget to, if you've got a mission for next week, hashtag mission is all you got to, and then we'll do that about 7:20, that draw. So you all have to hang around to remind us what the mission was. Digwell says, most of my weeds full as chop and drop. Why not let the goodness go back into the soil? Exactly right. Exactly right there. Isn't that the point? When you hoe a bed, you leave the bits to sit on top of the soil and the goodness goes back into the soil. Loads of weed seeds in hay, says Nicola. And Tower Stream says, the grass clippings I used have now produced seeds that have sprouted. I won't use grass again, only add to the compost heap. Leaves all the way from now on. Yeah, I mean, if you cut your grass regularly and it doesn't go to seed, it's absolutely fine. That being said, I accidentally have got a bit of a clover lawn here in the vegetable garden, and I'm really liking the use of clover as a lawn in certain areas. So I'm going to be doing more of that in the future. Jenny says, I love wood chip, perfect for paths and swales. Hay bales weren't too bad as they were conditioned. It got very hot inside, killing the seeds. Well, that's probably what we need to do then. Actually treat it like straw bale gardening, but with hay bale gardening. Hay is cut meadow grass full and weeds and weed seeds. Interesting. Stuart says, hashtag mission, show everyone how to use the straw is how I think it should be and how close the plants. Okay, I can do that as well. Graham says, what's the purple crown with hashtag about near people's comments? Is it doing that again? It popped up last week that the people who make the most amount of comments are on this leaderboard, apparently. And I've not seen it myself on YouTube, that is. Everybody watching on Instagram or Facebook won't see it. But apparently there's something going on with that. Right, let's go to this week's cook along, which was a good one. I've already eaten it, so let's go see how we get on. Okay, so it's time for this week's recipe. First of all, you will know I found my wooden chopping board that we were talking about last week. Now this week we are making something I've never really heard before. It's a Japanese sandwich that basically has become very popular as something. A fruit sandwich, basically. Now, I've found recipes and they all ask for a type of Japanese sweetbread. I don't have the time to make it, so I've just got some brioche rolls, which are an equivalent. Now I've just whipped up some double cream with some sugar, which is what we got here, and we're just gonna, oh, that's nice. Took quite a bit of whipping to get it into a nice solid state, but we got there. And we're just going to lay that on like so. I'm not exactly the neatest person, as you know, but this will do. And then same for the top, but perhaps not as thick. There we go. Sorry, a bit of a bread just came off there. Now, in terms of the fruit, we have, luckily it's soft fruit time, so we've got blackberries, gooseberries, raspberries, tayberries, and lots of other little vegetables that we can use. We're just going to place on here like so. Let's try and squeeze a few more in where we can, shall we? We've got to use them up. And they're tasty, so why on earth not? I think let's just get a couple more, another raspberry in there. That'll do. Pop the lid on top. Might have to just tidy it up a bit. Oh, it's already fallen apart. Let's try and tidy it up anyway. And then we'll take it over to the table and give it a try. Okay, so this is what it looks like in the end. Reminds me a bit like the old donuts in some ways. I've got to admit, you know, I'm trying to lose weight. This isn't going to help. Full of sugar and carbs. Well, carbs and sugar. But we'll try it. Oh my God. That is nice. I'm not sure this is the type of sandwich I would have for work. It's definitely more of a sweet treat, maybe even a pudding or a dessert. But never mind, just check my sound is working. That is really good. Let's try another bite just to make sure. So the question is, what do I give out of 10? I'm going to try another bite while I decide that. I'm going to go, and I'm scoring this because it's not healthy, but it's not meant to be healthy. I'm going to go 10 out of 10. This has been one of my favourite, most surprising things so far. Would it be better with the correct Japanese sweetbread? I don't know, but I'll give that a good solid 10 out of 10. Something really unusual there. Well, that's the diet out the window. Back to the studio. Indeed, I actually really did quite like that. Something a bit different, something a different way to use some of our soft fruits up. Would I eat it again? Yes, absolutely, but I wouldn't eat it regularly. It's a treat. It is basically sugar on sugar and sugar. And you know, I'm trying to lose weight. I don't want to be eating sugar anyway, so it is a treat. Luckily, the fruits are natural sugars, but the sugar added to the cream and the bread, not so much. But it was interesting, to say the least. Anybody got a recipe idea for next week that you would like me to cook? Hashtag cook along, and we'll do the draw later on. The grass gets dropped off from the council. Lesson learned. TurboStream talking about his grass mulch. Stick with the leaves then. Are you now a trendsetter with this new sandwich? LOL, says Stuart. No, I think the idea, it was Scott, apparently it's Marks and Spencer's or something are doing this, the proper Japanese version. And I wouldn't say I'm a trendsetter. It's you're giving me the inspiration. The idea is to try it out and see how it works. Digwell says, no, not for me. Sorry, don't blame you. Gary says, nice one. Jenny says, looks delicious. I need to make myself one. Glad you enjoyed it. It was good. Good. Anna Jones says, more like a fruit-filled scone than a sandwich, but looks tasty. Yeah, I think that is right, actually. But with less dense, more flavour, more sweeter bread than a scone. Jenny says, did you make Amanda one? She was out, so no. And Andrew says, when was the cooking part? Well, it's a recipe at the end of the day, sort of. And the diet out the window is mostly from the brioche. Yeah. Yeah, you didn't see how much sugar went into the cream, though, actually, to be fair. But yeah, as you know, I'm not trying to eat breads or anything, so it's not quite working for me. But you know, once a week this is always good. Hashtag cook along. You need to do, Nicola, hashtag cook along all as one word. It's running across the bottom of the screen. Use courgette to make courgette flour and then use in a recipe. At the moment, that might be the only one, but pop that in the bottom and we'll see what happens. Not for me, that says Turbo Stream. M&S may be in trouble with VAT, Batman. Okay. Kate says, looked lovely. It was nice. It was nice. I managed to turn off the crown. Excellent. Excellent. Jenny, hashtag cook along. Again, needs to be one word. Needs to be one. Oh, no. It may have came along. I can't see what you were saying now. Have you deleted it or something? Because I can't read it. Gary says, you've made the fruit sandwich, now for a vegetable dessert. Jenny says, hashtag cook along vegetable pie. That's an idea, isn't it? Or vegetable pasty, perhaps. YouTube settings, privacy, turn off leaderboard participation. There we go. There we go. There we go. There's that. So we've got 2 entries in that. 3 entries for the mission. There we go. So we're moving closer to next week. Let's have a look at your photos as well. It's that time of week where we want to see just what you're doing as well. And can I... trouble is, I hate when this happens. Right. Joys of having a small screen. I'll explain that another day. So your photos, what have we got in your photos this week? Now, Kate says her courgette was just tiny a couple of days ago. Well, it's suddenly put on some girth in the last couple of days. As you can see, that's a pretty decent sized courgette, almost bordering on marrow. It happens so quickly with courgettes. 1 minute they're fine, the next minute they are large. Stuart's rhubarb has harvested. He thinks this is from seed sown in the supporters club, possibly last year or the year before. But it just goes to show rhubarb is one of those crops that you can keep coming and coming and coming. Now, Nicola is making a lot of progress on her raised beds. We were talking about this earlier. She's been working very, very hard to try and get that there, and this is how hard she's been working. It's looking really, really good, I've got to say. Concentrate on small areas and break it down to see what happens. Beddoes has shared some of his humour, as you can imagine with Beddoes. He's watching the F1 lately, so that's why we haven't seen him for a bit. I think there's a lot of people watching the F1. But yeah, Bak Choi, Elvis Parsley, Frank Cilantro, and Bob Dylan. Digger actually went in there and added a few other bits as well. So do go check out. That's in the Facebook group, that conversation. Digger also has shared the plot shot of his 2 allotments for the first of the month. And I'm really blown away with number 26, which I think is his older plot, and how much he actually has going on in there. There's a lot of growth that you can see going on there. And even plot 39 isn't looking too shabby either, of course. But there you go. And now Lawrence is very happy with his cucumbers and melons that he's got growing here on his south wall. I believe they're in a greenhouse, if I remember correctly, as well. They look very, very, very happy, it has to be said. Growing really, really well, producing lots of growth, and hopefully lots of melons and lots of fruit. Now Nathan, he's got these Paris Atlas market or something like that carrots, these sort of short stumpy carrots, which are also looking good. Fantastic. Good to see some good carrots as well. They look absolutely delicious. Now please do keep sharing your photos. You can post them on Facebook group, send to me via social media, or email me, richard@theveggroundpodcast.co.uk. richard@theveggroundpodcast.co.uk. Jenny says you have 4 missions and 2 cook-alongs. I can only see 3 on my screen, so I don't know what the 4th mission is, to be honest with you. Digwell says #cook-along, Japanese bread so easy. Will I have time? That's the question. That is the question. Kate says, at what point is it officially a marrow? Well, technically a courgette is always a courgette. It's a bit of a... Oh, Digwell's actually answered that as well. It's a bit of a myth that courgettes become marrows, different varieties. Yeah, it is. I think it's because they're from the same family, and the reason that we generally want courgettes when they're small is because they taste better, they're more tender, but they also, if you pick them when they're young, they tend to produce more so that you get more. Right? That's one of the big reasons. Turbo Soon says, wonder what has happened to Ballycillian lately. Not seen him in ages. Hope he is okay. Yeah, I'm wondering the same. It's this time of year when people do disappear but come back in the autumn. So it happens. There's a lot going on. People are busy on their allotments, their gardens, barbecues, etc. Hopefully he's okay. Plot 39 is the new one, a work in progress. It looks fantastic nonetheless. Gary says, great photos, thanks. Still need to give a sweet potato update. That would be good. That would be good to see a sweet potato update, because we do like sweet potatoes. Nicholas says, you need to grow marrow plants to get marrows officially. Yeah. And Stuart says, Jenny says to Stuart, did 2, so would one cancel the other out? Stuart did 2. No, it wouldn't cancel the other out. It would just appear twice. I can't remember seeing the second one myself, so I can only remember the seed tape one. Kate says, cook along vegetable sushi rolls. And then Gary, I like that idea. Vegetable sushi. Well, I haven't been out for sushi for so long. I need to go out for sushi soon. I love sushi. Haven't eaten it for quite a while, but I do enjoy some good sushi. Did I tell you, many years ago, I went on a sushi making course. It was quite informative, actually. Quite informative. Jenny's... Well, Nicholas says, I did veg sushi at BBC Food Live. Yeah, and seed tape and how to use straw. That's right, you did. I forgot about that. Type it again and we'll see if it comes up, Stuart. That's all I can recommend. We've got about 6 minutes before we start doing the draws for next week's mission, next week's cook-along. Has anybody got anything they want to add about saving seed? And the reason I'm going down this and saying this is one of the things that I've been trying out a bit more this year is that to grow things from stuff that we buy from a supermarket. Like I bought a bulb of garlic from a supermarket and I've planted that in the garden and it worked. Seed potatoes, buying potatoes from a supermarket and planting those, see if it worked. It did work. What other things? Things like in your herb and spices section, I've been thinking about growing seeds that we can, like cardamom, growing those from seeds that we would buy. This is something I want to explore a bit more with you guys. So I've been thinking about it and trying to work out what it is. Now, I'm sure there were a lot of seeds that we could buy from a supermarket that we could grow. I remember somebody saying about goji berries. You can buy goji berry seeds from a supermarket and try growing those. I've not tried it myself. I don't like goji berries myself. I found them disgusting, but it might be worth a shot if it works. Digwell says proper sushi is very anal. Just get on with it and make what you want. Yeah, it is very anal. Stuart's put that hashtag mission. It hasn't came up. It's stuck with 3 here, interestingly. So perhaps you can only enter once. I thought I'd set it that you can enter more than once. So, Stuart, if you win, you have to decide. You have to decide which one you want to do anyway, because it doesn't come up with that. Nicholas says you can use your dehydrator on a very low to dry your seeds before putting in a jar. That is a good point. You can, but be careful you don't get the seeds too hot because that could kill them. Chili Phil, cook along vegetable katsu with homemade sauce. Oh, you're making me hungry. I've had my dinner. I've had 2 steaks for dinner. I cannot eat anymore, and you're making me hungry. Digwell says lemongrass from Tesco, etc. is so easy to grow on. Sold around 10 so far this year. Oh, how did you do that? How did you grow lemongrass from Tesco's? So how did you get that to work? Tell us more. Gary says, should I do one of the missions on behalf of you, Stu? You can do. You certainly can do, Gary, if you so wish. Nicholas says, I had plant of goji berries, spread very little fruit, got rid of thorns and lack of fruit. I think they're disgusting things myself. I know they were touted as being a superfood when they first came out, but I found them to be disgusting. I didn't like them at all. Vile things. And it's very rare I would say that about anything, but I found them to be vile. Jenny says, I have 3 lemongrass on the go after seeing yours. Stuart says, thank you, Gary. Hashtag mission Stu, how to use straw. That's turned up. Yes, that's turned up. That's worked. I've now got 4 entries on the mission. There we go. You can only enter once. See, the more we do this, the more we learn. It's really warm in here. I don't know if you can tell. I'm sweating buckets. It's really warm inside this potting shed today. Even though we've had a lot of rain, which is very, very welcome. I've said time and time again, we want more rain. We need more rain. But it is very, very, very hot in here. I'm going to have to... Just getting ready for... Oh, no, that wasn't... Oh, do we do it now? Shall we do it now? Let's do this. We've got 4 entries, as you can see, in the mission. A little bit early, but let's see whose mission... Oh, 5th one just came in at that point. Field tower planter you started making in spring. It's already full. It's already full. But yeah, it's not really doing great, to be honest with you. Too dry. It's been too dry for vertical gardening like that, really. Anyway, let's see who wins. So there we go. There's everyone's things. It's starting to come up with the who's going to be the winner. It is going to be Andrew Norris's mission, which I can't remember what Andrew's mission was. I'm sure he will tell us in a moment and remind us what Andrew's mission was. I could go back through the comments and find it, but that's a bit difficult to do when we are talking. But if anybody can remember, that would be... Or if Andrew's still there, please remind me what your mission was. Oh, Jenny says bird water table. Bird water table. Don't forget, you can always... And Andrews came back in. Build a bird bath table for water. Yeah, there we go. Don't forget, you can save all these for next week as well. If you come up with a mission, you can save it for next week and try again. Rob says hello from Cornwall. And Digwell says lemongrass. Go to Tesco's, look for the lemongrass, grab a load of 59p each, pop them in water, root grow. In a few days, pop into compost. There we go. There we go. Rob says can't hear, I think. My sound's going through nice and fine. Says hi, Jane. Hi, Rob. There we go. There we go. There we go. Right. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes before we do the draw for the cook along. We've had some great ideas. Can everybody remember what their idea was for this week's cook along? As I said, next week I do want to talk about growing it in pots because it has been such a hot year, and growing in pots, I do find they need more care, more attention in order to keep up with the watering, keep our plants hydrated and growing well. And as I'm learning and doing more and more in my garden and allotment, particularly when my driveway is being done, hopefully be finished by next week. The front driveway, I grow a lot in pots, trees and fruit, etc., etc. But keeping on top of the watering can be a little bit challenging. I want to find out what you do to keep on top of your your garden pots, you're growing in pots, your potted gardens. There's a word in there somewhere I'm trying to get out. That will be what we're going to discuss next week, though. So be ready for that. Be ready for that. Right. Let's do it. Let's stop that screen. Let's do the share screen for the cook along. I think it's that one. No, it's that one. Right. There we go. Get ready for it. Should appear on screen like it has. So 5 entries this week. I cannot remember them all. So if your name comes up, you will have to remind me what they are. Let's hit draw. And there you go. There's everybody flashing through there. Let's see what we get. It is. The winner is Digwells, which I think... I'm not looking forward to this one. The Japanese rice. Japanese bread. Are we talking about the sweet bread that was meant to be for this sandwich? You know, I'm not very good at bread making, but you chose it. I have to do it. I have to do it indeed. You know, I'm not the type. I can't remember if it was definitely the Japanese bread, but yeah, let me know in the comments if that's what you're talking about, that sweet bread from Japan that was meant to be in this fruit sandwich. What have we got? Turbo Stream says it's a long way to Cornwall. No wonder you can't hear out. Nicola, were you in Trevone? Have I pronounced that correctly? I don't know. Sound okay here, Rob? Must be your end. Why am I lucky, Dingwall? Dingwall? Nice. About 45 minutes from me. I'm more south. I am in the pub, so not got sound on. That's why then. That's why you can't hear us. Sound on. You need the sound on. I've taken all the notes down. I'll send them over. Thank you. And Turbo Stream, my mission would be to remember what I wrote in the hashtag mission bit. Yeah, got to start taking notes. Got to start taking notes. And Digma says, for info, Pete Prohibition bill delayed for yet another 2 months. They're dawdling a bit, aren't they, on this Prohibition bill? God knows what's going to happen there. Over on Instagram, I've realised I've neglected it a little bit lately. Dahlia679 has joined, and Amy Selby 101 joined, and Jed the Garden Man joined. Okay. What have we got? What have we got? Anything going on in the comments? Jenny says, if anyone forgets to write it down, I do write them all down the hashtags, Richard, so I can remind you. Could you pop them in the comments so everybody can remember? Idaho's turning in late. Well, yeah, we only got about 5 minutes left for tonight. So, but lovely to see you nonetheless. Hope you are well. I'll tell you what, Idaho, do you save any seeds? This has been the question I'm discussing tonight. Next week, we're going to be talking about keeping our plants in pots in good condition. I'm working it out in all the time in my head. as we try and figure more and more out. Oh, question. Well, I had a question and it's gone out of my brain. Digwell says, "Gotta go. Pot noodle ready to eat." I have never eaten a pot noodle, I can safely say. I've tried them once or twice. I've never liked them. I prefer proper Chinese type noodles, proper egg noodles. I cannot think when I've ever eaten a pot noodle like that. Jenny says I said vegetable pie. That was right. Broad beans are good to save. Yeah, broad beans are always a good seed to save. I've got some from a few years ago that have done really well, actually. One year I'm just going to have a really big blitz and sow loads and loads and loads and loads of seeds just to make some room in my seed cupboard because I need some more room in there. This has been a very interesting subject this week, but really looking forward to next Sunday as I grow loads in pot cystia. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good discussion. It's been something that's played on my mind lately. I'm looking at trying to expand on it and make it better. Jenny said, Kate said veg sushi rolls. Graham, chicken and mushroom or curry, Digwell. Idaho says, yes, I save seeds, marigolds, calendulas, peppers, chard, kale, parsnip, parsley, carrots, dried beans. There we go. Never tasted broad beans, says Rob. Never tasted them. You have not lived. Gary, I left a few pods on the plant, but black flies made them go manky. Chili Phil said katsu, veg katsu and homemade sauce. Yep. In case anybody has forgotten. Yeah. I forget. So I couldn't do it without Jenny there taking the notes each week, to be honest with you, because I can never remember anything. There's a lot of things going on, as I'm sure you can imagine. But 2 minutes left to go, and I think we're going to start wrapping this up. I think in conclusion, we're all we save some seeds, but there's more seeds we could probably save. And we do like saving seeds, some of us. But at the same time, seeds are cheap to buy from a supermarket. So what is the point was one of the conclusions we had as well. However, we don't know what's around the corner. We don't know what could happen. So I do think it is a skill we should be doing a bit more of. Added to that, there are some varieties, heirloom varieties, that have been lost because people didn't save the seeds from them, and that might be a thing to think about in the future. And you get the genetics involved as well. That being said, we cannot save seeds from F1, although it could be fun, could be worth a shot. It's just something that may not work, or it may work in the same way. Right, I am making it 7:30, so I think it's time to wrap up and get out of here. We will be back again next Sunday at 6, where we're going to be discussing pots, growing in pots, etc. We're also going to be making this Japanese bread and building a bird bath. Right, guys, that is it for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure chatting to you as always. Take care, and I'll speak to you again next Sunday at 6. Bye for now.